But Churchill is still determined to stop the U-boats putting to sea at all. British and American bombers launch raid after raid against the base. But this has little effect, and so in January 1943, Churchill changes tactics. If he can't destroy the pens, he'll destroy the city of Lorient itself.
The Allies had failed to actually destroy the U-boat pens themselves, so they turned to the idea of devastating the towns around them. The idea was if you could destroy the town, the civilian labor force, the infrastructure, the railways, all the communications links, that would at least hamper operations out of those U-boat pens, or maybe even render them useless.
Night after night, day after day, the bombers return, dropping 60,000 incendiaries and 500 high-explosive bombs. After 1 month of near constant raids, the city of Lorient virtually ceases to exist. 3/4 of the buildings in the city are destroyed.
Contact the base. I want a detailed report of any damage as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Amidst the devastation, the U-boat pens still stand. Dönitz's determination to provide his boat fleet with the best possible protection has paid off. But the Allies are still determined to crack the pens, and so they construct the biggest bomb yet made, the Tall Boy.
The Tall Boy was a special bomb, a bomb that weighed over 5 tons, carrying 2 tons of explosives. It was dropped at 6,000 meters, so by the time it reached the target, it would be traveling at the speed of sound in the hope that it would penetrate the reinforced roofing of the U-boat pens.
11 of these gigantic bombs are dropped on the city. Only one makes a direct hit on the pens. But with the Tall Boy, one might be enough. This is the indestructible pen's toughest ever test. Nearly 3 million tons of thick reinforced concrete faces a direct hit from an earthquake bomb designed to smash it.
Well, this is absolutely incredible. This is where the Tall Boy actually hit the bunker. But you can still see clearly where the original line of the roof would have been. And remember, that's 3.5 meters of concrete that the bomb has penetrated straight through, literally obliterated. But you can also see the gap between the roofs, and then through that you can quite clearly see the second layer. And what's most impressive is that there's barely a scratch on that layer of roof. From underneath, for the people working in the bunker itself, it must have sounded quite horrendous. But crucially, they would have sustained no damage at all. Whichever way you look at it, this is an absolutely incredible feat of defensive construction.
The base has proved indestructible, and Dönitz continues to personally direct the U-boat battles out at sea.
Here are my orders. The Meise Group are to proceed northwest at high speed. Understood? Good.
But by April 1943, just as the U-boat fleet reaches its strongest with over 400 submarines, the war on land turns against Germany, following defeats at Stalingrad and in North Africa. And then, just as it looks like Admiral Dönitz might have to prove his boast that he could win the war for Germany, the tide turns against the U-boats too. The Allies realize they will never defeat the U-boats in their indestructible base at Lorient, so they develop technology to go after them at sea instead. And it's Dönitz's own communications that give the Allies the chance they need.
Allied intelligence were able to penetrate German high-level communications. Admiral Dönitz had to stay in constant communications with his U-boats to coordinate their attacks, and the U-boats had to communicate with each other. That gave the Allies a way of locating them and ultimately destroying them.
The hunters are about to become the hunted. The Allies develop equipment to detect U-boat radio signals, and they break Dönitz's secret Enigma code, enabling them to read his messages to the U-boats. Oblivious to this, on May 17, 1943, Dönitz orders a wolf pack to attack a convoy of 37 ships sailing from Canada.
Which boats are closest to the sector?
U-544 and U-954, Admiral.
Order them to close immediately.
U-boat U-954 is carrying Dönitz's son, Peter. The 21-year-old officer is eager to experience his first major action.
Order, sir. A nice fat convoy heading for us. At least 14 heavy ships and a light screen of destroyers.
From cracked Enigma messages, the British convoy commander knows exactly where the U-boats will be. The escort destroyers and bombers from Iceland spring their own trap.
My God. Alarm! Aircraft attacking on the port bow!
Thank you.
U-954, carrying Dönitz's son, is lost with all hands. The Allies' technological advantage proves the decisive blow in the battle for the Atlantic. 243 U-boats are sunk in 1943.
My U-boat men, you have fought like lions. We have been driven into a tight corner from which it is no longer possible to continue the war.
Just 5 days after the loss of his son, Dönitz orders all his crews back to base and scales down operations.
Dönitz's campaign had failed. The balance in the Battle of the Atlantic had shifted dramatically in favor of the Allies. The Allies had defeated the U-boat threat at sea, and in 1944-45, Hitler's armies were being pushed back on all fronts. Defeat was now inevitable.